Hi, everyone. Thank you, Oxylabs team, for inviting me here at this webinar. I'm Pierluigi Vinciguerra, CTO and co-founder of databoutique.com. I'm a professional with 10 years of experience in web scraping since I started my web data company called Real Analytics 10 years ago. And then we scraped and we're still scraping hundreds of e-commerce websites, but now we are shifting to a new model called databoutique.com, which is a marketplace for web data where our own platform professionals and companies could buy and sell ready-made data sets and subscribe to data feeds. I'm also writer of a newsletter called the Web Scraping Club, which, guess what, it talks about web scraping, and where I share my experience in this industry. As you can see from my CV, I'm not an AI engineer. I'm not an super expert in how to train LLMs and so on. But I'm a tech person that loves to use AI tools in an informed way for improve my experience and my productivity in my daily routines. AI was not invented with ChatGPT. AI was there long before it. As an academical discipline, it was founded in 1966, and commercial solution using some artificial intelligence have spread in many fields for at least 20 years. The solution like pricing algorithms, classification, and clustering of different items like customers or something like that, natural language processing, self-driving cars also are all solutions that have been around for decades. We can call them traditional AI or old AI models because they are here for a long time, and they differ from generative AI for several reasons we'll see together, but they also have some points in common. One of the points they have in common is, of course, the need for data. 20 years ago, where clustering solutions or dynamic pricing algorithms, they were all based basically on internal data because there was not such a huge knowledge of web scraping. But with the digitalization of the businesses and more data available online and the web scraping that became more and more popular, many of these solutions are starting to integrate web data, like prices from the competitors or scraping reviews or social media to understand what's the sentiment of the people on a certain brand or product. Also, generative AI, of course, rely on web data. Or better, they rely mostly only on web data, since companies like OpenAI or Perplexity don't have internal data to share. They rely on external data or the web to train their models and create products like ChatGPT. But of course, the scale of this activity and the scope of this activity are way different from old AI. In fact, if we can see the traditional AI or old AI, all these applications are very specific. So basically, if you think about dynamic pricing, of course, you are scraping prices, and your output, it will be the best price for your according to your algorithm. If you're doing sentiment analysis, you're scraping social media, reviews, and so on, and your output will be a rating of a product or a brand or a short way to summarize the people view. Or the last case I mentioned it would be if you're willing to understand or predict the stock market, your output will be the price of the single stock tomorrow or in the next hour. Generative AI instead is called generative mostly because they generate the answer while they are writing it. Because the mainly different from the traditional AI is that they basically they create the best plausible answer possible, word by word, in the case of ChatGPT or some or analog products. So that and imagine doing this for every open input a person can send to ChatGPT. You can ask to ChatGPT whatever you want, and ChatGPT will create word by word a plausible answer for you. And think about it. ChatGPT is actually the eighth most visited website on the world, according to SimilarWeb. So this means that we have a scale of inquiries of prompts sent to ChatGPT that is nowhere near to any old AI solution. And to answer to this prompt, of course, you need a never seen data collection scale process for collecting all the data needed for understanding what the user is asking in every different language, in any different context. And this is why the scale of a product like GPT for the data ingestion is huge, is never seen in the history, I think, of the humanity. And this is also one of the key differentiators from a generative model to another one, because the more data you get, probably the most efficient answer you can give to your customer. And of course, if you get a lot of this data, you get petabyte, I suppose, of data. you ingest them, but also you need to train the model on top of this data. So think about how much the scale of operations of the infrastructure needed to do, of the computing power to do all this stuff is something that is never seen before, even in industries like, let's say, autonomous driving, that requires a huge amount of money invested in building self-driving cars, several self-driving cars, all the hardware needed to extract data from the street and process it in real time. Well, even the amount of put on all the self-driving cars is nothing compared to amount of money put in generative AI in these days. Of course, this scale, focusing on the scale of the data acquisition process, scraping a lot of data from all over the web, even if you use the Pareto rules of scraping the 20% of the web that gives you the 80% of the knowledge you need to train your model, it's hard. It's hard because you have a lot of websites and not everyone is happy about being scraped. And of course, when you scrape such a huge portion of the web, you can encounter many potential issues. You can scrape copyright protected material. You can scrape something that impacts the privacy of some people. And also, since you have such a limitless budget on scraping, maybe as an engineer, you are not so, let's say, prone to create a scraper that is perfectly tailored for for a website or another, but probably you're most prone to use brute force or some or heavy or maybe not the best practices in the world to scrape websites. And again, after getting this huge amount of data, the model to train takes time. If you inquiry today ChatGPT and ask him when was the cutoff of this knowledge, it will answer you that the knowledge is limited to the October 2023, because it takes time to get once you have the data to train the model on top of it. Even if you have limitless resources to spend on NVIDIA cards and GPUs, it takes time. And one of the biggest also challenges you have when creating these such models is that since you need to scrape a lot of data, you don't know exactly what enters in your input of the model. Think about scraping Reddit. You can find there hate speech, sarcasm, black humor, even on other social media or on any website you can imagine to scrape. So since you cannot understand fully what enters in the model, you need to gate what are the answers that your model should provide. You don't want your GPT model to answer with some harmful content or illegal content. You don't like, and you don't want to spend your time in courts to face cases against someone that is getting harmed or injured because of the suggestions responsive by your GPT model. These are mostly the challenges that are already happening on the market because of the data gathering activities of these companies. We have copyright infringements. We have websites that are mostly almost took down by the scraping activities from company or privacy issues. And as I mentioned before, also when the cutoff on the training data used by ChatGPT. But of course, given all these challenges when creating an LLM model, of course, these tools are still great to use in an everyday life with a pinch of common sense. I like to imagine like my ChatGPT with like a sort of intern. I can ask everything, but I need to overview and what it's doing. I need to understand if the answer it gives me are correct or not. So I will not fully trust any LLM model for subjects that are not on my specific field or that I cannot understand if they are hallucinating or giving me incorrect answers. But for topics like web scraping or other tech topics I'm most familiar with, I use them daily to confront them, to challenge my articles also with ChatGPT to understand if there are some other point of view I didn't think about. The issue that is related to the previous slide about the gating of the answers on these models is that in some niches like web scraping, which somehow are still seen as gray areas, well, ChatGPT in this particular case is not very useful because answers are mostly are not so specific, and you can when you try to ask some anti-bot technique, like in this case, how can I bypass Cloudflare? Usually, you don't get a very useful answer because OpenAI tends to gate all this stuff and don't answer directly to this question, probably because they are afraid of the reaction of Cloudflare or other companies and for this prompt to the answers of these prompts. But of course, it's completely legal to talk about it. I'm doing it for 3 years almost. So is and everything and everyone in the industry is doing so. So given this lack of information about web scraping, and given also that I wrote up more than 200 articles on my newsletter, and people keep asking me, how can I bypass Cloudflare? How can I bypass Datadome? What can I try to improve my scraper? Well, I wrote more than 200 articles about these topics, but I know that it's difficult to find the answer to your specific issue just by browsing my newsletter. So I thought that creating a custom GPT to use as a knowledge base for my audience would be a good way to improve their experience in using my content that I wrote on the newsletter, and getting some answers to their questions with all the notes I said before. You need to take the answers with some pinch of salt, because they can be re-elaborated by the model and not properly what I wrote in the article. But as we'll find later, they are pretty good answers. So let's see how I created a custom GPT model with using Oxycopilot and my scraping my own newsletter. Okay, so I'm building our custom GPT model for the Web Scraping Club, and since I'm no expert in training any AI model, I'm using this almost no-code way of doing it. So I'm using the new Oxycopilot tool from Oxylabs to scrape my own newsletter website, and scrape it in a JSON format. Then I will create a script that uses the code generated by Oxycopilot to create JSON files, and then I will upload to my custom GPT. So for the first part of this task, let's go to the Oxycopilot. Let's try with one article about one of the latest tools I tested in the Net Web Scraping Club. So I'll put here the link to the article, and I write a very brief prompt about what I'm looking for from this article. I'm giving some context, so I want to scrape a blog article, and I'm interested in getting the title of the article, the full article without summarization, the URL of the article, and the publishing date. So once I generate the scraper, it will take some seconds to answer to this prompt with the code I can use in my Python algorithm. I can refine here the instruction I gave before. Let's say I will add 2 more articles for a better generation of the code. Let's say I'm also happy with the prompt I gave before. So let me copy it, and here we go. And then we can generate the instruction. I will not enable JavaScript rendering because my newsletter is not protected by any anti-bot. So it's enough to scrape the HTML code. But if I want, we can, if you need to scrape a more protected website, you can tick that box. What Oxycopilot is doing at the moment is to use the Oxylabs web API to gather the data from the website. Of course, if it's protected by anti-bot, it's choosing the best way to bypass the anti-bot, rotate the proxies, and so you don't have to worry about it. Just like when you use the web API from Oxylabs, you just plug in your API key in your scraper, and you're already set up for your task. So we've got basically a payload for our API calls containing the parsing instruction, which is true because we need to have as an answer the fields I requested in the prompt. We are simply rendering the HTML, and the parsing instruction are the ones that are generated by the Oxycopilot with all the regex expressions, the selectors, and so on. I just copied and pasted the instructions that Oxycopilot gave me, and created this sort of script that reads all the 200 articles from the web scraping club and creates a collection of JSON articles of the articles in the JSON format in the output. As an example, these are four articles here. I try to as an answer, as a response of the and this is as a response of the Oxycopilot, and this is the full website the full file we will use to train the model. So let's go. Now we have got the input data for our custom GPT. Let's move to the GPT platform to see how to upload these files on the platform and create our custom GPT. So if you have a pro account of ChatGPT, you will have the chance to explore GPTs and create a new one. I've done it for Data Boutique as an example because, as I mentioned before, we also had the same issue with the knowledge base of the support to our customers, to our users of the platform. It's always easier to ask a prompt to a GPT what's the issue what's the solution for your issue, rather than looking for the documentation around the website. So what we can do is to create our own GPTs. So what we do is explore GPTs, and then on the up right corner, we have the create option. Let me share with you the process I made to create the custom GPT of the web scraping club. When we start a new GPT model, a new custom GPT model, we can start from creating our own custom GPT by prompting our instructions, which is, It can be a good approach, but I prefer to configure manually all the nuances and the extraction I want to I want to give to my custom GPT. So I usually use this tab. Of course, we can upload a logo, a name, a description, and here we give the context and extraction to our custom GPT. In our case, I'm saying that our GPT must impersonate an expert in web scraping techniques, uh, give Python code examples because I'm proficient in Python and all the newsletter is written with Python examples. That's why I choose to give web scraping examples in Python. And, and I said also to mention in every answer, when possible, the articles of the Web Scraping Club I gave in input, and and if possible also to link them. I described the input I gave to the custom GPT, what's inside the files. As you can see, I split the files in the one long file with all the articles returned from my Oxy Copilot run in different files, thematic files, because you need some back and forth to train your own GPT model. Even if you get clean data from your Oxy Copilot run, adding and removing content from a custom GPT knowledge is a sort of a bet, because you don't know what are you touching, and maybe the answers that were before correct, they can become incorrect again if you touch even an external file that is not strictly connected with the answer. But honestly, that's it. I decided for common prompt to show at the beginning, at the beginning of the splash on the homepage of the Scraping Club GPT. So as an additional setting, you can choose if you want all this data to be passed to the general GPT knowledge, or if you want only to keep it in your GPT model. Yes, so let's see. This is all. It's basically all here. It's not rocket science. It's something that everyone can do it in its own company. And let's see the performances, the difference in performances between this custom GPT and the traditional GPT model we have here. So, as we said in the presentation, one of the most known issue with Common GPT is the cutoff date of the knowledge, that they improved implementing the live web search some weeks ago. So they, like Perplexity did some time ago, they fill the gap between the real-time knowledge and their base model. But let's ask a prompt with an event that happened recently. So, how was the latest Oxycon conference? And you can see that there is the cutoff of the knowledge, that it doesn't allow us to know how was the event, the 2024 event. But since I wrote about it on the Web Scraping Club, let's see what happens if I say exactly the same question. Now it's looking for the answer in the files I've uploaded before, and this is the answer. with a summary of the article I wrote about it. In fact, the three main themes I wrote about it were these three ones. And if I also ask him, can you share some articles about it? Share an article about it. He's sharing the article of the Web Scraping Club about it. Okay, and one other example we had in the presentation was how can I bypass a Cloudflare with my own scraper. And of course, as I mentioned, the answer is gated from the OpenAI team. Maybe they don't want to create something harmful or whatever. For whatever reason, they don't want to share any answer about this question. If you use GPT-4 instead of the latest model, probably you will get an answer. But I'm not sure. Sometimes, yeah. Okay, you get an answer because they extract a generic answer from Wikipedia. But if you ask the same question on the custom GPT model, since I wrote many articles about this topic, you will get, hopefully, a bunch of articles about it. These are generic answers that mix up many articles I wrote about it. But let's say they link some articles about it. This one is quite old. Oh, coincidentally, it was one of the articles sponsored also by Oxylabs. It wasn't not intentional. But if I can you share more articles about it. You can ask for some articles related to this topic, and that's it. If you want to play around with this custom GPT, you can find it at the address gpt.thewebscraping.club, and feel free to use it and send me some feedbacks about it. It's a work in progress, so probably there are some articles that are not yet listed. There are some other articles are probably getting hallucinated by the prompts, but we will see how to improve it and how also these tools will help us in creating a better knowledge base with our data. Oh, I think we almost run out of time, so I try to answer most of the questions I received in the chat and offline. If we want, we can move on Discord to get a live Q&A questions about the other stuff you want to ask me. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see in the Discord channel of Oxylabs.